Welcome, adventurers! You've made it to the Wind Down, the live stream at the end of the Geekverse. It's a chill place to hang out here as the sun sets on another day. We're here to have a little chat, reflect on the day's successes, and prepare for a better tomorrow. So settle in with your favorite beverage this evening.
May I tempt you with a cup of chamomile?
Why, thank you, Dory. I would love a mug of tea this evening, but perhaps you would rather have some coffee, though I do recommend decaf this late in the evening. Or perhaps maybe a cold brew is more your style.
Oh, no, thank you, Dory. A little red wine. For me, Isaac.
Sounds like an excellent choice, Gandalf. Whatever you want, it's yours. Could I offer you a bourbon, a martini, an old-fashioned, or something perhaps a little stronger? Ugh, well, I mean, if that's really your thing, then okay, but I hope we can find something a bit better than that.
Romulan ale. Why, Bones, you know this is illegal.
I only use it for medicinal purposes.
All right, now we're talking. I'm Heath, and I'll be your host. Welcome to my home. Come one, come all, writers, artists, sculptors, storytellers, board gamers, streamers, dungeon masters, fans of sci-fi, fantasy, geeks of all kinds. Whatever your fandom, you have a place here. For soon it will be time for another long rest so that we can recover our hit points, our spells, and our abilities, so we'll be ready to fight on for another day tomorrow. But first, we all need a little time to reflect. Because you've survived another long, perilous day of wilderness treks, dungeoneering, and random encounters. And that's worth celebrating. Let's tell the tale. It's time for the Wind Down. It will improve your life. It really will. Give it a chance. Here we go. Hey, good evening, everybody. Great to have you this evening. Wonderful to be here. I have been sick, so that's why I haven't been around. I haven't been done much of anything since, well, the last time we streamed together, which was on Wednesday night, and I was getting sick then. The next day I woke up and I was completely out of it. I was afraid that I had the flu or something, and I didn't even think about getting a flu shot this year. And I've heard other people who had been taken out by it quite a bit. Who knows? Maybe that's what I had. But I was expecting if I had the flu that I was going to be out for a week or something. Because I've heard that. Because apparently it's been bad going around. But I'm feeling almost back up to speed now. So after just laying around the house and getting nothing done for about, 72 straight hours, well, at least I'm back here for a stream. So streamed, got sick, and now, well, back to streaming. So welcome to my home, welcome to the office, and welcome to the Wind Down. We're going to be talking about building Celtic druids and bards tonight. That is our main topic. We've got Shell Mel here. Good evening, good evening. We've got Better with Bacon. Hey, good evening. Mike's here as well. Greetings, greetings, greetings. So great to see you. So, I did a little bit of work on this document since the last time that we had been working on it, including this afternoon. Let's see, is there anything else we need to talk about? Is there any kind of announcements? I don't really think so. I was thinking today that I'm really expecting the rest of those cultist RPG books to show up. Could have even been this weekend. It's kind of been strange that with the printer, I don't know if anybody else has been like this with Drive-Thru RPG, but that often I will find a box of books or box from them on my front porch, and then I will come into the computer and see that, like, just a few minutes ago, they sent me the tracking number on that. So ordinarily, I expect to get the tracking number before it shows up on your front door. But as it's been going lately, they show up, and then I get the tracking number after that. So I'm expecting that anytime. Would be expecting to get a tracking number anytime, so I can continue with the Cultist RPG fulfillment. But right now, don't have them. But I'm going to get back onto that as soon as they show up at the door. But in the meantime, we continue to go on. Did anybody? I did see major news from a friend, and so maybe you saw this as well on social media. Did anybody see the video that David LaRocca over at Infinite Black posted? He was talking about, really, I saw that, I believe that was Thursday or something. I was sick in here and I saw that he posted this video, and I was like in terror as I was watching the first like 90 seconds of this 5-minute video, because I thought that someone had died over there. Like, I'm not joking, like how terrible he looked, and saying what kind of a situation that he was in over at Infinite Black, and how it was affecting him and his family and everything like that. And I was like, oh my God, someone's dead. Like one of the children has been hit by a car or something, or he or his wife has been diagnosed with like some type of terminal illness or something. But if you had not seen this, Better with Bacon said, I thought the same thing. So you did see that on that. So yeah, if you, but apparently like all of his inventory is gone. I texted him and I said, man, you really scared me when you posted that. So I was glad in that respect that it was just a major business thing, but of course that's not good. Apparently something happened, and basically I mean, sounds like close to all, a massive amount of the Infinite. Oh, okay. So you put it in the Infinite. Okay, you put it over here in ours. Yes. Okay. Well, I need to talk about that. I mean, I can talk about that there. We could talk about that maybe sometime on stream or something like that. Because I contacted him, but and so he's delaying. And basically, it sounded like he was basically starting over. That somebody had taken all of the Infinite Black inventory and sold it off. And so it's now showing up on other websites and stuff like that. And I was like, how do you all of a sudden realize that all of your inventory is gone? Like, you have all this inventory in Shopify and whatever you're going to be taking to conventions and all of that. And then all of a sudden you realize that actually none of it is there. So I'm not sure. So I don't really know what happened beyond that. But he said, yeah, basically it's been taking all of my time to try to figure out what the status is with all of our, game inventory and dice inventory, and apparently it's all gone. I said, it sounds like you're starting over. And he said, basically, so he said that he's delaying the launch of the Nocturnus RPG, which I told him we would be happy to take a look at Nocturnus here on this channel. Yeah, I put in an application for his, the beta reviewers or something like that. I never heard back from that. But I did that, but apparently it's taking all of his time to sort out what his situation is with his inventory. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong when you're trying to run a board game company. There's a new one on me. I can talk about all kinds of things that go wrong when you're trying to fulfill physical products across the world. But that's a new one. Now, of course, I did also, I have not gotten to watch them yet, but one thing we do need to talk about is Better with Bacon's and Mike's new book on 4D role-playing. I did not get a chance to download it yet, but I did bookmark a bunch of other places that are talking about it to watch through, and I just haven't done that yet, because you would think that I would have done a lot of YouTube watching while I was sitting here sick, but I didn't. Or maybe I did and I don't remember it, and it was just a bunch of mindless stuff. But I want to take a look at that as well. So that is all going on. So, all right, I guess that's what's going where. It's not going anywhere. Better with Bacon says. So, anyway, all right. So I'm going to bring up our document here. And one thing that I may have had this idea when last we were working on this, but it's kind of been solidified in my mind now, that as we go through here and we're kind of working on a real Celtic style druid and bard class and things like that, and other classes. I mean, the other classes that we're putting together here, we're kind of doing a really nice update, I think, that's drawing from several different books, but is drawing kind of heavily from the AD&D Celtic campaign source book, and then also I've been cross-referencing the GURPS Celtic source book. which, by the way, I also saw that there was an FAQ posted by Steve Jackson Games that said that basically, was an FAQ about the revised 4th edition book. And I do remember like scrolling through that while laying in bed yesterday or whatever day that was that came out. And so 4th edition GURPS, or not, the 4th edition revised GURPS is coming. So I'm curious about that. But it's not new rules. It's not new rules. But the Celtic campaign book for GURPS is still 3rd edition. But kind of drawing from a lot of that, which was all great material, and then putting it into, in this case, an OSE form. I mean, it could be other forms too. I know a lot less about the current state of 5.5 or whatever. So I thought that, well, maybe that information should be extracted from the Tales of Rabavania campaign setting, because there might be a lot of people who are interested in Celtic character classes and such for the kinds of role playing, who might not necessarily be interested in the Rabavania world. And the more I've thought about that, perhaps in a state of delirium over the past 72 hours, the more I think that that's potentially a good idea. So being able to extract that package, and of course some of the wording will be different even in the most crunchy areas of that, but then go in and just put in some just a straight up Celtic information. I mean, has anybody else done that? I don't know. Can you get the I mean, probably so. I mean, something's been done with everything now, but people might be interested in that. It might draw some people who might not otherwise be here. So I'm kind of thinking about that, and I think it's a good idea to potentially be able to release it in both ways. So I did start working through some of this again, and I started back at the very beginning, and I probably am going to cycle through the book a few times. I mean, I will cycle through the book a few times. From the beginning to the end. But I started back at the top. Last time we were working on that table that you could roll for gifts or dooms on, that was inspired by and adapted from the AD&D Celtic guide. I got through that, and I did basically a whole nother revision on that, including making sure that everything on this list, it's not completely done yet, but I did make sure that everything on this list, if you were going to make this fated roll, could apply to any character class that you picked. Because we went through a long discussion last time about potentially gating character classes by rolls on this table, and if you don't have the right gift, you can't be part of that character class. But OSE lightly gates character classes by statistics anyway, which I think is the better way to go. And so I just took all reference to that out. So some of the character classes are lightly gated, but they're gated by ability scores rather than some random roll here, and that all this needs to apply to people regardless of what the class you later go and choose. Which did mean changing up, like we've got Battle Heat now, which rather than having the Berserker Rage, you get the Berserker Rage if you choose that character class. But there's like a miniature version of it here that is not even what that happens with the Berserker Rage. So if you roll this and then you choose the Berserker, you get, an ability you still wouldn't have had otherwise. Likewise with the Hunch, but I still got to really make sure that we've got the right divination spells in the game to refer to. Because I've been taking a look at what's in OSE. Because it seems like we drew from Augury quite a bit, and then also like divination, and then something else, which might not have actually been in the OSE book. They might have been all AD&D references that were not ported over. So that's why this really isn't completely done yet, but I got to that point. We have to really check out what spells here, or if it needs to be some other kind of ability. we'll put it in. And then also, as far as you can cast one first level spell once per day, I think that needs to be from a list, a very specific list. And I hadn't compiled that list. But I did go through that and worked on all the notes that we had talked about. And so I will probably circle back to the top and then start combing through it all again. But I thought we would go ahead and take a look at Bard and Druid, because I do think they kind of need to be built kind of together, and give you my thoughts on this and how we're going here. So the Bard here, we had copied this over to this source book a long time ago from the OSE Player's Tome. So what you're looking at right here is from the OSE Player's Tome. And at the time, we thought that this was a really good adaptation of the Bard for a Celtic style Bard. So not like a minstrel or a jongler. Where are my physical copies of the books? Oh, right over here. Oh, this is classic. Of course, I do know that we're going to have a new OSE book, right? That's going to come out. The Necrotic Gnome is putting out a new OSE rule book as well in 2026, right? So that's also something to think about. When they do that, we'll have to take a look at it. I think they're standardizing the race and class being separate. So, if this comes out this year, I want it to be current to whatever the last thing they are putting out. But I think they have, they have Bard here. So this is the Bard from the Advanced Fantasy. And it says, requirements. This is the minimum gating here. Dexterity 9 and Int 9. Prime requisite is Charisma. Hit dice D6. Maximum level 14. Leather scale, chainmail, no shields. Weapons, missile weapons, and one-handed melee weapons. Languages, alignment. I'm taking out alignment languages, because I'm not really talking about alignment at all. Common. This is kind of, what is in here? Anti-charm. While the bard plays music and sings, allies within 30 feet are immune to song-based magical effects and the beguiling powers of sylvan creatures or fairies. Allies already under the effects of such magic may take another saving throw with a +4 bonus. And of course, when we're talking about the Celtic version of the bard here, we are talking about a member of the priestly class. So that was one thing also that AD&D mentioned, that bard is moved outside of the rogue and is instead moved over to the priest class. And so that is done here as well. So we're talking about a member of the priestly class. So there are 3 different kind of priestly characters here: the druid, the bard, and then the vate we were talking about, which we're going to use. We said we're going to use cleric as a model for. But anyway, anti-charm. All right, that sounds pretty good to me. Now we can change up the effects here, like beguiling powers of sylvan creatures or fairies. That would change depending on whether you're in Rabavania or if you're in some other Celtic inspired setting. But okay, anti-charm, that seems to make sense for the Celtic priestly bard. Combat, bards can use either leather armor or mail, and in my case I do want to bring out scale as well, so because I think I did put scale up here. Yeah, scale armor. But do not have the training required to use plate mail or shields. And then, like in Rabavania, they would not have plate armor anyway, so I would take that out. But this is still just where we are. We would, oh yeah, this seems to make sense. This is I guess, OSE's take on a Celtic bard when plate mail does exist. Okay, in a campaign world with plate mail, they can use all missile weapons and all one-handed melee weapons. Divine magic. Okay, see page 110. So this moved over to divine magic. For full details on divine magic, deity disfavor, bards must be faithful to the tenets of their alignment and religion. Bards who fall from favor with their deity may incur penalties. Spell casting. Once a bard has proved their faith from second level, the character may pray to receive spells. The power and number of these spells available to a bard are determined by experience level. The list of spells available to bards is found on, whatever page. Bards have the same spell selection as druids. Okay, now this is gonna be different, I think, for our construction of these classes, is because, instead of the next page, I think bards need to have a different spell selection than druids as we're reconstructing druid, because druids can be much more wizard-like, Gandalf, Merlin, etc. And so needs to be more magic user-like. So I think one of the things that we're going to have to do is make up a specific bard selection. I feel like I'm sitting in a hole. I don't know if I can move this without taking out the whole thing. I moved it down a little bit. Maybe I'm easier to see. I think one of the things we're going to need to do is make up a bard-specific spell list, which might actually be a lot like druid. But then druids are going to have to get their own list, which is more like wizard. Using magic items as spellcasters, bards may use magic scrolls of spells on their spell list. They may also use any items that only druids can use. Okay, makes sense. Now, this is the question right here. What do we do with this? I mean, this does make sense in a classic D&D type of fantasy world. Scrolls, I'm just typing notes in here. I mean, makes sense. Makes sense in the context of D&D style fantasy. But here, we know druids are not big at all. If there's a different source of magic that uses scrolls, okay, well then fine. But also remember, the bards and the druids are the same kind of priestly class. So if it's some other type of magic or something like that, is the bard really going to be using it anyway? I kind of think not. And plus here, I don't really think that we need to deal with like the outsiders from other types of cultures. The AD&D book does a little bit by saying like that's how you might get a paladin or a cleric, a AD&D style paladin or cleric into a Celtic game by having them come from another culture. But I don't think we need to go into all of that. So it might be that we can remove that and give them another ability. I think potentially. Which I have an idea for that. That would be in something from the AD&D campaign book. Oh, by the way, there was one other thing that happened when I was thinking about notes. I put in the Discord server yesterday that Doug was live on his channel with Cameron and Retro Nerd Girl. And I would have gone, but I sounded terrible still yesterday night. But I did put that up. But I thought it was a fun conversation with Doug and Cameron about Star Wars and Kathleen Kennedy. So there was that happened as well. So some of y'all may have caught that. I think a lot of people did. I think a lot of people came over from Cameron. So that was another thing that's happened in the last few days. But anyway, so they only used items that druids can wear. Okay. Enchantment. Now this I also think works pretty well. This is by playing music and singing, the bards can fascinate subjects up to a 30-foot radius. This ability does not function in combat. The fascination with the bard also seems very appropriately Celtic. Number of subjects, up to 2 HD worth of creatures per level of the bard are affected. The bard may choose to target a specific individual or a group, in which case the affected individuals are determined randomly. Types of subjects. At first level, the bard can fascinate persons. In Rabivania, that would be other rabbits. So that would have to be specified. At 4th level, animals may be affected, and then at 7th level, monsters may be affected. So this would be like this would be rabbits, or in Rabivania, rabbits and other speaking creatures, because not all the animals speak. Speaking creatures. And then that would leave 4th animals of all other kind, and then monsters. Like, what would that be? Things that come from the other world. Basically, that's what I'm thinking here. Monstrous things that aren't some speaking creature or something that is some other animal. But actual monstrous foes. That seems to work here. Each subject must save versus spells or be fascinated as follows. Wrapped. Fascinated subject's attention is fully bent on the bard's performance as long as it continues. Follow. The bard may walk along while playing. Fascinated subjects will follow. How do you feel about that? I mean, to me, some people are going to be like, what am I, the Pied Piper? So, I guess that works, but it also is very Pied Piper-ish. The Pied Piper comes to my mind right then when I read that, rather than something particularly Celtic. I guess it follows well from the stuff that I do like, but then I can't help but getting a Pied Piper like image in my head when I read that. And it says interruptions. If the performance is interrupted by a loud noise or violence, the fascination ends immediately. And I had thought, before I was thinking about in terms of up here with the scroll, that I was like, well, we could add something else in if we took the walking, but why not just keep the walking in? If we're going to take away the scrolls, then we'll add something in, and that works, I think. Bardic level progression. Okay, that's just copied over. Which, by the way, although it is important to think about this, Bardic level progression, because I was thinking about progression to Druid and how we handle this, because it does seem like that sometimes, and why am I talking about progression to Druid here in Bard? It's because it seems like often we come up in situations where one character class can become another. Becomes another. But it's never done terribly systematically. Terribly systematically. In any kind of system that I've found. Sometimes I think it's great. Like Harnmaster? No, not Harnmaster. Hackmaster. Hackmaster. When you've got, okay, how do you become a paladin? Well, in order to become a paladin, you first have to be a knight. And how do you become a knight? Well, you have to have first been a fighter. And so I kind of like this idea where you might have a much smaller number of starting classes for starting out with adventuring. So if you've got, well, I don't know, maybe like 4 or something, like some small number of class. But if you want to progress to something else, it's almost more like a prestige class at the end. Maybe there is a tree that you go through. And so in this case is something I would like, having some kind of tree, but that does mean that players are much more thinking about what they're trying to become rather than becoming things as the result of their adventures. But I think there's probably place for both of that. You are defined by the things that happen to you, by the treasures you get, versus, hey, I've started this game and I've fully mapped out as to where I want to go. But I think there's probably some type of way to do a system where there are like 4 starting classes, and then you can go all the way to level 20 or whatever the highest level it is, all the way from that starting class. And there needs to be definitely reasons to do that. Like if you start out as fighter, you need to be able to have a strong, solid reason as to why you would be a 20th level fighter and not change over to the class. But then at a certain point, if you were going along the fighter track and you want to become a knight, you need to have done X, Y, and Z, and you could not have done, A, B, and C and whatever else. Then you can shunt over to the knight track and go. And then you can level up to level 20 as a knight from there. Or if you want to become a paladin, then at another certain checkpoint, X, Y, Z, if you've done these things and haven't done these things, you can then shunt over to paladin and finish leveling up from there. I think, though, that if a system is going to do that, then it needs to do that systematically for all of the character classes. When that happens, it seems like it gets shoehorned into, just adapted for a certain number of character classes. I don't know. What do you think? Am I off base about this? But like, for instance, Hackmaster has that progression for fighter to changing class to knight to changing class to paladin, which seems to make a lot of sense. If you're like, should there be a first level paladin anyway? Arguably, no, there shouldn't be a first level paladin. Well, how do you make sure then that any paladin you meet has really earned the title? Well, forcing them to go through that progression. You're not just going to play a first level paladin. That has disadvantages, of course, that, hey, if you sit down for a one shot, unless you're designing 8th or 9th level characters or whatever from the beginning, you're never going to play a paladin. Okay, that is a disadvantage. But if I were doing that, then I think I'd want that for all the character classes. And why I'm bringing that up now is because Druid could be one of those. Like even in AD&D Druids, it says, hey, your character class is Druid, but you're not really a Druid until you reach whatever level. The outside world may call you a Druid, but you've got these other ranks that you're not really a Druid before then. And one of them is Bard. And looking at some of the material, and I think especially it was talking about this in the GURPS Celtic myth book, was like, well, you can become a bard. Becoming a bard is like your first step on the way to becoming a druid. And it takes so long to learn everything that you need to learn as a bard. And then some people choose to never go on. You can just live out the entire rest of your life kind of leveling up and just being a bard. But once you become a bard, then you can move on to become an olave if you want to continue study. So this would be setting up that kind of branching path with druid, that should you start as a druid. I mean, in this case, druid asked the same question as paladin I was just asking, right? So does it make sense to ever start as a paladin? Well, arguably not. Of course, arguably so, depending on your game world and such. It certainly could. But it might not. And likewise here, it might just not make any sense to actually start as a druid. Oh, you want to play a druid? Well, you're not going to be able to do that until level 8 or something, whatever it is. I don't know. First, you'll need to start as a bard. So this could set up that kind of tree with bard. So this could be the case with bard to olave, I think is how you pronounce that, to druid, something like that. But then again, we wouldn't be doing that systematically across this. I think that's something you really have to set up structurally in the system for basically everybody to do. And also, a reason to not do it is because if people want to sit down and play what they want to play at level 1, you're denying them something like druid. I mean, you could do it also here with something like thane. Like, well, in order to be a thane, which is our, pagan knight equivalent, you have to have first been a feared rabbit or one of our Fian, one of the Fianna here. This one might also be a good one. So you could set up some type of track that's like, okay, well, you're not going to be a level 1 thane. You got to start at something else and then work your way to it. So I mean, potentially you could work something like that into a game like this. But see, another way this is often handled is by saying you are not the real thing, so to speak, until level 3. And we've seen this just written sometimes, and again, not systematically across class. But I think it matters a little bit less in this case than if you've got this complex like career tree that you're building in for some of your classes that just doesn't exist for others. I mean, maybe that is kind of an old school thing that you're not trying to balance them all across each other at any given level of play. But again, this would not be systematic. This is often not systematic. If you don't know what I mean by you're not the real thing until level 3, like take, for instance, in OSE, Knight. So how do they handle Knight? Can you be a level 1 Knight? Can you be a level 1 Knight, for instance? Well, you know, like OSE and some other games say, well, kinda. Basically, that's what they say. Well, kinda. You begin as part of the Knight class, but then it says you can be a level 1 Knight class. But you are a squire. You're really a squire until level 3, right? Let me see if I can increase the zoom here. I'm gonna do this last time for you a little bit. Okay, that's probably a little bit better for you. But you're really a squire until level 3. And that probably it doesn't require being systematic across all classes, because if you're a thief, well, can you be a level 1 thief? Yeah. Can you be a level 3 and level 12 thief? Yeah. Okay. So, but at least this gives you some type of like nod of the hat to, okay, you're a level 1, whatever this thing is, but you're not really that. So, okay, Shellmel, yeah, I was just like, have I just completely random, completely, well, yeah, I'm still recovering a little bit from sickness here. Am I just, rambling on here? But so Shellmel says, I've seen similar things for wizards with journeyman status and others. You could probably do it for wizards too. I mean, you could probably make it work for a lot of things if you were interested in incorporating it in a systematic way. Then there's probably role-playing games out there that do that, but we read a lot of them on the Morning Grind, and I never really saw that. Did you? I mean, is there one that we went over that had that kind of tree progression for, systematically across everything? I don't think so, but wizard, you could certainly do it with. I think too, you could come up with that kind of thing. But I say all of this because I realized that when I was trying to define what is the relationship between a bard and a druid anyway. And then I realized, you could go down this whole the whole rabbit hole and try to change everything up to be like, okay, if that way you never encounter a level 1 druid. Like by the time you encounter an actual druid, okay, I mean, this is a force to behold, and and we can incorporate that with things like that. But so I thought about that quite a bit, which is what I also was trying to articulate off the top of my head here and see what you think about it. But ultimately I decided that we shouldn't go that route for this, because one, it just doesn't fit the old school essentials model. So if this is an old school essentials adaptation, then probably let's not try to do great violence, so to speak, to try to structure class hierarchies to base classes, career classes and prestige classes or something like that. That just seems like you're getting into a whole nother kind of structure here. This is probably the most reasonable solution, that if you need to say, hey, yes, there's probably some type of apprenticeship period, we'll just say, you're not completely that thing until maybe level 3 when you're expected, to do something and undergo some type of initiation. And that does, from the gameplay status, allow you to play any of these character types from level 1. And my thinking is, if you can't play it, hey, I really want to play a druid, and you can't play a druid until you're level 12 or whatever it is, you might not play. And the gaming time is hey, Keith, gaming time is at a premium at the table. And so I think what you do is you just let everybody play the character archetype that they want to play, even at level 1, and don't try to do that hierarchy thing. Shellmel says it becomes a good way to build in lore for how the systems works in the game. I mean, I agree. But then also, I mean, your whole level structure becomes a lot more complicated. And there may be someone who has done that. In fact, this is probably... I have been thinking about returning to making just regular videos on this channel, and maybe I should. I was working on a different channel this afternoon, actually. I've got a couple of other things going that I'm trying to take care of. But, I mean, this topic might be a good one for a video. Because it has been a long time since I've done just a regular YouTube video on this channel. But I think there are several topics that come up as we're doing this that could get revised and pulled from notes pulled from our discussions here, and then put together in kind of a neatly packaged YouTube video. And discussing this is probably a good one. What are people's take on that? So in the spirit of adaption, I said, okay, let's not do that. Sure, in the world lore, you can be a bard, especially if you're talking about at least trying to be quasi-historical Celtic world, that you might be a bard first or whatever. But let's just let people jump right into it and make sure the classes are archetypically distinct. But that's clearly something that I thought a lot about when I was when we hit this. I was like, oh, okay, so what actually are the relationships between all these different classes? So this is, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here. Hey, Robert, welcome. Good to see you. So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here trying to think about, at the moment, our XP level progression and all of that. It looks like it got cut off anyway. But that was just extracted from Advanced Fantasy at the moment anyway. But then continuing with ability scores, that was it's quite the diatribe, but I think important because it comes up so often. Charming fascinated subjects. If the bard performs for at least one turn and the performance ends without interruption, fascinated subjects may be placed under a deeper charm. Each subject must make another save versus spell with the +2 bonus, or be charmed for one turn per level of the bard. Friendship. Charmed subjects regard the bard as a trusted friend and ally, and will come to the bard's defense. Commands. If they share a language, charmed subjects will obey the bard's commands. Alignment. Commands that contradict the charmed creature's nature or alignment may be ignored. Suicidal commands. Charmed subjects never obey suicidal or obviously harmful orders. And then, so, I mean, that's an extended part. So he stops performing. Yeah. And then this continues. Languages. Bards learn new languages as they advance in level. At every even numbered level above 3rd, 4th, 6th, 8th, etc., the player may choose an additional language. Bards may learn the secret tongue of druids in this way. Now, which I also do like. So there's a connection that OSE, the OSE Advanced Fantasy Bard had, that does connect them to druid by, well, not only giving them access to druid spells, but by allowing the secret tongue of druids to be learned by the bards. So that's a good connection, I think, there. especially in this kind of environment where they're both members of the priestly class. Lore. From second level, a bard has a 2 in 6 chance of knowing lore pertaining to monsters, magic items, or heroes of folk legend, folktale, or legend. This ability may be used to identify the nature and power of magic items. I also like that one. That's a very old school way of doing this. I'll say I like this better than, I mean, there are no like non-weapon proficiencies in OSE. And I was looking at the AD&D book for this. I like this better than non-weapon proficiencies because you can really go down the rabbit hole on non-weapon proficiencies. Non-weapon proficiencies. However you spell proficiencies. Because I like this idea that your profession is, if you're a part of the character classes, your profession is adventurer. And if you need somebody to do something that's that's outside of the adventurer kind of category, then go hire somebody to do that, right? Instead of coming up with a rather extensive list of things that, hey, I used to be a Cooper or something, right? But I like this. Okay, 2 in 6 chance. The certain in 6 chance is an OSE kind of thing. So go ahead and let them have a lore check. Okay, I like that. That's a good. Which means that's different. I guess this also means I don't really like knowledge checks, but this is different from a knowledge check. I'm not a big fan of knowledge checks. But this is something extra that just the bard has. That you wouldn't be gating things by make an intelligence check to see if you have heard of this guy before or something. Only the bard can do. Not just intelligence checks. And then after reaching 11th level, the bard can establish a bardic hall, 2d6. And I think they called it a stronghold, but I went ahead and changed it over to bardic hall, 2d6 apprentice bards of first level. And see, I mean, here is also kind of a nod to that, because these are the idea we were just talking about getting trained. 2d6 apprentice bards of first level will come to study under the character. I mean, my understanding of that is that is 2d6 non-player characters, but of the player character class bard. It's just that they're first level. So yeah, they're still apprentices. So, I mean, you could even say that much like the knight in the OSE book, is a squire until then. Bards might be may remain apprentices. Until 3rd level, before they really strike out on their own. And then by the time they are, 11th level here, and I also think that this should include a high social status in the Celtic context. That this is a bit more than when you think about like a Bard's Hall in your typical AD&D campaign, which might, if it's, a real late medieval or, early Renaissance kind of campaign setting where they could all be real foppish, and you could have the jugglers there and the minstrels and everything that goes with that type of bard. You're really not having that here. You're really a high social status individual in the Celtic world, because this is becoming a center of cultural preservation. The Druids can do this too, but cultural preservation, but also, in a sense, it, immortalizes like warriors and kings, because it talks about later that, well, you really got to have if you are a warrior, a great king in this culture, then you want to be sung about, and whatever. And so this is a high status kind of thing here. I think is important. I do want to do the loadouts here for 3 different like bardic options, and then bardic spell list. We need to think about that. But before we do, what's the thing that I think is missing here? I mean, I think that's pretty close to ready to go. I think it basically is ready to go if you're trying to play a druid like that in the context of a general medieval fantasy role-playing game. Of course, old school. But if you're setting, which I mean, old school essentials, when you're just looking at these basic rule books, is basically setting neutral, right? There's not a lot of setting information in it. You're not trying to build this in a particular world. So as long as you have a general medieval fantasy setting, which has everything that implies, from leather armor to rapiers to knights and you're like, hey, I want to play a Celtic kind of bard. I think this one does a really good job. But it needs a little bit of tweaking if we're going to do it just exclusively within a Celtic context. Now, where is... I can go over here and grab the physical book, but a moment ago, before I got on stream, I did have something up. Let me just go over here and find it. So I'm going over here to the Celtic campaign source book right here. So let's go over that and see what it says about Bard. Now, because it's trying to adjust the Bard. I mean, when you talk about the classic high fantasy Dungeons and Dragons style Bard, of course, that's really what that is from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And so this is trying to modify that type of Bard to become a Bard within a Celtic society. So... okay, it says Bard. Okay, so here's what this says about Bard. Which is, like as I said, just modifies the AD&D Bard. Bard. In a Celtic campaign, bards belong to the priest group rather than being a type of rogue. Celtic bards were certainly singers and poets, but their priestly function made them more than just entertainers. They were the repositories of history, law, and lore, which is what I was kind of talking about down here. And in their memories lay the whole of the unwritten Celtic tradition, which is again they probably don't need to be using scrolls. They should use scrolls certainly in a classic, high fantasy general AD&D world, sure. But I don't think here. Celtic bards are very different from bards as presented in the player's handbook. The necessary changes are as follows. Requirements: bards must be human, dexterity must be 12 or greater, and intelligence 15 or greater. Both are prime requisites. Now this one does have the non-weapon proficiencies, because AD&D used non-weapon proficiencies. And this says ancient history, religion, and spellcraft. Any knowledge type proficiency costs a bard only 1 proficiency slot. They may not wear armor here, it says, but they may use daggers, clubs, or slings. Oh, so that's interesting. So OSE did kind of allow the bards to be more heavily armored. But I think that's appropriate. It says no shields. But it's a bit more generous with weapons than might otherwise be expected. And I think the more generous, I'll just make notes here. I think the more generous weapons, weapon and armor allowances are acceptable. because of their prevalence on the battlefield as like herald types. And of course, that does seem like, well, no, wait a minute, shouldn't the herald be a non-combatant? But it seems like that, yeah, that you might be sending like bards back and forth for some type of discussion or something. But if they're going to be there on the battlefield or to witness these, heroic acts and things like that, then I mean, they might be stuck in a bit more than say the druid would be if you're sending druids back and forth, which probably as heralds because of their battlefield presence. And maybe the druids don't even do that, but the bards might. Let's see. So spells allowed bards have minor access to the spheres of divination, charm, and all. And all. What does that mean? And all. That must probably some type of error here. It says divination, charm, and all. Characters born with magical affinity or appropriate she blood may multiclass as bard mages. Bards may use any magical items usable by druids. We've got that again here. Plus any magical musical instruments. Oh, well, we should. I mean, I don't know how you get one of those, but that's a good point. Maybe we should include that in spell casting, and also any magical musical instrument. Musical instrument. Let's put that in. Okay. But then, now see, this is the part that I liked, though, and I think we needed to include. Well, okay, wait. One more paragraph first. Granted powers. It says bards progress as clerics on the priest experience level table and roll 6-sided dice for hit points like druids. They make saving throws as priests. Bards have no thief abilities. They have the following abilities. So that's important too. And we don't have that here. We don't have bards as the jack of all trades that bards pick up on thief stuff. And I think that's important also for their identity in this kind of flavor campaign. They have the following abilities as listed in the player's handbook: influence reactions. They have the following abilities as listed in the player's handbook: influence reactions, inspiring music, poetry and stories, counter effects of songs and poetry used as magical attacks, and general knowledge, which I think most of that was what was covered elsewhere, right? Note that the general knowledge does not include the ability to read magical writings unless they are written in Agam. Now, we do have that, but this does call out that, hey, you can't read magical writings. Bards command respect from the rest of Celtic society. A bard gains a bonus of +1 per 3 levels on encounter reactions with Celtic humans. I don't know. That's an interesting one. Bards gain a bonus of +3 per +1 per 3 levels on encounter reactions with other Celtic humans. Let's just make a note of that. From the AD&D Celtic book. Bards gain +1 reaction rolls every 3 levels from others in their same culture. Or cultural group or something like that, which also is the status, that represents their increase in status. Now that hopefully druids also have that. We will see, but okay, potentially. Okay, but here is the one that I thought that maybe we could replace their scroll ability with. It says curses. Bards have the ability to inflict curses on those who offend them in the form of magical verses. At 2nd level, a bard gains the use of the priest spell Curse, which is the reverse of Bless, and at 5th level, the bard gains the use of Bestow Curse, the reverse of Remove Curse. A bard may remove curses inflicted by any bard of lower level. So it strikes me, I think in general, that might be a good ability to replace scrolls with. What do you think? Let me see if I can type something about that up. Okay. But this is like bardic curse, or really satire. And actually come to think of it, this could also be, because I think I was reading something about sometimes the Celtic bard actually being able to physically manifest injury on someone by like satirizing them. That's really not something that you want to have happen to you if you are a great warrior. You don't want to give a bard any particular cause to be able to satirize you because of the harm to your reputation and everything else. Or, come to think of it, games, and I'm not saying it's here, but this would also be something like, could also be something like Celtic provoke. A Celtic provoke. If you're really trying to get someone to fight or something like that, doing this, I'm thinking through the bardic curse, satire, provoke method could be it. So this says, again, from AD&D, this is bards have the ability to curse. This isn't necessarily, this is not at all final language, but right. Curse others through the use of biting verse. At second level, at second level, the bard gains curse. Does it say once per day or something? What does it say? Well, no, it just says gains the use of the pre-spell curse. I guess because I was about to say, it's gonna take a lot to look through all these spell lists to be sure this is right, because I guess this says priest spell, and I believe, well, I'm getting it all confused now, because it's the OSE said they used bard spells. That's not here in AD&D. They'd probably still maintain their bard spell list, but I guess bless or curse and bestow curse are priest spells, and so they are bringing those over onto their spell lists. It says they gains the use of the spell, so they're not using it as like a spell-like ability. They're gaining, like, what does that even mean? Gains the use of this spell. I guess that it appears on their spell list, I guess. That's the kind of thing that needs to be clarified. That's one of those, it sounds like one of those deliberately kind of vague things, or not deliberately, but one of those vague things that is in second edition. Level gains curse, reverse of bless. And now OSE does have reversible spells. Reverse of bless, and then at fifth level, bestow curse, which I guess, which is worse. Bestow curse, reverse of bestow blessing. I thought they were going to do this as a spell-like power. Note, I thought this was going to be a spell-like power. But it could just be that we need to be sure these spells are on his spell list or her spell list. These spells are on the bard spell list. Because I do like that idea, and it sounds particularly thematic, especially when you add in here that a bard may remove curses inflicted upon others in such a way by any bard of lower level. But I do like that. A bard may remove any curses placed upon another in this way. By any other bard of a lower level. I kind of like that. I think that I really like the way that this bard is going. I always like it when whenever we're working on a class, like whichever class it is we're working on at the same time, you're always like, oh yeah, that's the one I'd want to play. And I think it should be that way, that, you know, if you're working on working on a class and maybe I'm not so excited about that. I mean, I know some people have preferences for magic users or melee fighters or whatever. I'm just talking about if you're not excited, if you're doing the development of it and you're not excited about it during the development of it, then you probably do need to rethink something. So, I mean, but this seems like a pretty fun kind of class the way that it is going, I think. I think it makes a really good Celtic bard. Let's come down here and take a look at, loadout. We'll do that much later. But what kind of stuff is on the OSE Bard spell list? And I wonder if that's something that is available online. OSE Bard spell list. No. There's no Bard spell list. It's the Druid spell list. So he gets to draw from the OSE Druid spell list. OSE Druid spell list. Cleric, magic user. That's what I thought. That it was not. Yeah, I found this page before, and it's everything from the basic tome or standard rules, and this is drawn from the advanced fantasy tome. So I don't have it online. So let's just take a look at what are the Druid spells, and do these things sound like something that the Bard should have? And by the way, I guess we could look at the AD&D book for Bards and what type of spells they have, and probably cross-reference them. Let's look at Druid spells. 146. Because some of the Druid spells I have a feeling we're not going to feel are particularly appropriate for our Druids. Because I think that in OSE, so OSE and Druids are priests of nature, protecting wild lands from the encroachment of civilized law and the corrupting touch of chaos. They worship the force of nature itself, personified by the form of various nature deities. They're more, I still believe, they've got like shape changing and stuff. So it's more like, it still feels more like traditional D&D kind of Druid. So first level Druid spells. Animal friendship. Okay, I can see that going with Bard. Detect danger. Potentially. Entangle. Yeah, I could see that going with Bard. Fairy fire. Selected objects or creatures in range are outlined with a lambent green fire. Yeah, okay, I could see that. Invisibility to animals. Locate plant or animal. Yeah. Predict weather. Yeah, maybe. Speak with animals. Can you see a Celtic bard kind of speaking with animals? Yeah, potentially. Bark skin. Maybe, but potentially less. Create water. Maybe. Cure light wounds is on this list, so it depends on how much healing magic you've got. And where we're going to put the healers. I kind of think the healers should be someplace other than the bard. Heat metal. All metal in the possession of a number of human-sized. All metal in the possession of a number of human-sized subjects is heated to extreme temperatures. Does that come from? Can we think of a Celtic kind of tale where that happens? Obscuring mist. So that one sounds much more druid to me. Produce flame, maybe. Slow poison, maybe. Warp wood, more druidic. Third level, call lightning. Now that's going over to druid for sure. Our druid for sure. Growth of nature, hold animal, tree shape. Water breathing, not really. Cure serious wounds is here. Dispel magic. Yeah, I think that one could potentially be druidic, like while he plays or something. Protection from fire and lightning. Maybe. I've seen there's a lot that has druids with like elemental protection, speak with plants, summon animals, temperature control. 5th level, commune with nature, control weather, pass plant. Pass plant, that means the caster steps into a tree, then instantly steps out of a tree and the same species in another location. That's kind of cool. I wouldn't give that to the bard though. That's definitely druidic. A high fantasy, high magic kind of druid spell. The trunks of both trees must be large enough for the caster to fit inside. No, I mean that's fun. But no, I wouldn't give that to bard. Protection from plants and animals, transmute rock to mud, wall of thorns. That one is also more druidic. Okay, and that's it. So a few things. I didn't type that up as I went. But kind of going through there was a few things I would have taken over to Celtic Bard. That's why I think that constructing that, which like that curse thing was not on there. But not everything. Let's go over here to, what is our AD&D? How do I get an AD&D Bard spell list? Let's just look at 58 gives me Bard. Spell lists 164. Wizard spells. Priest spell. Okay. Let's just take a look at Bard in here briefly. That's at page 58. See what kind of abilities here, like climb walls. Nope, not doing that. Detect noise. Nope, not doing that. Pickpockets. Nope, not doing that. Read languages. Now, see, the reading I don't have a problem with. That's why I said that. Hey, if it's a scroll or something, or something that's, because he can learn to speak a lot of languages. I don't have a problem with them reading stuff. But the people who would be making something like that don't make magic stuff in their own languages. A bard can also influence reactions. Okay, we got all that. This is very much the jack of all trades. Bard. The music, poetry, and stories of the bard. That's the +1 bonus to attack rolls and +1 to saving throws while you're sitting there playing your song while this is going. We don't have that, but I think that's kind of to the better. I mean, it's pretty classic that, okay, the bard's supposed to be sitting over there playing while everybody's fighting. We don't have that, but also that's another reason to give the bard better weaponry, I think, because the bard might actually be involved in battle rather than just playing a song while everybody else fights. Counter the effects of songs and poetry used as magical attacks. Okay, yeah, that was included. May learn a little bit of everything. Okay. So they don't cast? I guess they don't. No, there's bardic spell progression. So wait, where do I learn? How do I determine what spells they get? I thought they cast. Since bards are dabblers rather than full-time wizards, their spells tend to be gained by serendipity and happenstance. In no case can a bard choose to specialize in a school of magic. Beginning bards do not have a spell selection. At second level, bards begin with 1 to 4 spells chosen either randomly by the DM. An intelligence check must still be made to see if the bard can learn a given spell. The bard is not guaranteed to know read magic, as it is not needed to read the writings of his spell book. The bard can add new spells to his spell book as he finds them, but he does not automatically gain additional spells as he advances in level. All spells beyond those he starts with must be found during the course of adventuring. The bard's casting level is equal to his current level. Oh, okay. Well, that seems like... So there is no bard spell list to help draw from. You just dabble with different things. Okay. Yes, okay. So we are definitely going to need a custom list of Celtic Celtic bardic spells. That's going to be important. Which comes from some of the druid spell, the OSE druid spell list, but isn't that whole thing. I'm gonna have to spend some time thinking on that. But anyway, okay, so maybe that's all we do for that one right now. But I like that. I like as initial pass. I really like that as a druid. And we talked about we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes. I go a little bit. One of the things I like about streaming in the evenings is I have the opportunity to go a little bit longer than in the mornings, because I always feel like, I gotta go and do something during the day. Whereas the evening streams, it's much easier just to chill out. We did mention that we were going to talk about bards here, so let's go ahead and go into bards a little bit. So obviously that's not the finished and polished bard, but that one, as I recall, was when we found that version of the bard in the advanced OSE, I thought, hey, that one is really nice for a Celtic style kind of bard. So we had a nice base to start from. Right, yes, Better with Bacon says it's also like, super chill at night. All of the day's energy has already been spent. Yeah. And this is also different, and it mellows me out. Originally, I had designed the morning grind because I was trying to make sure that I got up to do something during the day when I was having problems with that I had to make sure that I got up in the morning to do something. And that gave me a definitive start to the day. And it was intentionally trying to be high energy. Like I wanted to be sure it was, and it did. It's, psyched me up here. But here I'm intentionally trying to be mellow because we're trying to wind down. I don't have wine. I'm going to have to start picking up some wine. So I actually have wine during the wind down. But like the table talks, when we would do like story discussion and things like that, that would psych me up. So when we did that at night, which by the way, I've got to talk with Doug. Doug and I are going to talk about getting back together and doing some more streaming this year. But like we would do those kind of streams in the evening. It'd be like a 6-hour-long stream on Star Trek or something. And then I'd get so fired up I couldn't sleep for the next 12 hours or something. So I am trying to design the wind down. The wind down is designed to not be something that like prevents sleeping after it. And if we do more like discussion on stories or things like that, then it needs to be that too in the evenings. Which, by the way, I did get another person. I didn't get to finish the stories or the revision of Clovis because I've been sick. So that is still a little bit on, that's yet to be done. But I had one other person send me beta reading notes on Clovis. And so it's been a while since I've read it myself. So the document has cooled to me. The story's cooled to me. So I'm going to read the whole thing again and then pull together everybody's beta reading notes that they have sent me, which have had some fantastic notes in them, and then going to rewrite so that, and that's the story that goes along with the Celtic rabbits here. So I'm excited about getting that out. I really am. Better with Bacon. Okay, well, that'd be fantastic. The indie movies. Yeah, we may have never done that. The indie movies. the main topic that we never really covered in the as far as storytelling went that I would like to was that idea of the literature for men idea, right? Ancient stories and important things like Gilgamesh. Brianna and I did cover the Iliad. We did talk about that, but I spent a lot of time last year going through audiobooks of a lot of major works of fiction, classic works of fiction like that. The Iliad, the Odyssey, the Aeneid, all of that, Gilgamesh, and we never got to cover them. We never actually went on stream with them. Oh, but Bacon says Bacon is Bacon. You're actually one of the last people who I really love to hear from, who I sent it out to. So that's great. So it works out well because I have not done it yet. Oh yeah, we do have the dangling True Detective. Yes. PH. Hey PH. Hey you guys. I was about to go to sleep when I saw this live. Yeah, I've been sort of transitioning to evening streams. So, yep, maybe here in the evening. So great to see you. Great to see you. Yeah, it'll be the next. Yeah, it's not critical, but probably I am going to turn my attention to that, the story updating in 2 or 3 days and get that done. Yes, great to see everybody here. Okay, well, let's go on for just a few minutes then and look at Druid. Maybe arguably we shouldn't because it's going to be complicated. So we are not going to be able to get too deep into this. So undoubtedly this will spill over into the next stream. But let's go ahead and get started with it a little bit. I would like to anyway. Okay, the Druid is complicated because there's a lot about it that doesn't work as a direct port from anything classically fantasy, like your classic fantasy druid like we think of today. And I think there are a model for like the Celtic druid. I mean, our model's the Celtic druid, and then also it's very much like wait, what? Maybe I did not get this joke. Oh, no. I did not get that. Gandalf, Merlin, and part of my thought on this originally was that maybe we should take a look at Mage from Carcass Crawler 1, and then a blend of, because there's some aspects of the Druid, of the classic Druid that work, but it's fewer than I would think, that you might think, fewer than I thought. So really, we're looking at a magic user in this environment. You can have a priest magic user blended with some of the powers of Druid with potentially a lot of information from Mage from Carcass Crawler. Carcass Crawler being the OSE webzine, right? And let's see, what did I put down here? Druid needs some requirements. Okay, as far as where was I going here? Where did this come from? This may have been the Arthur legend. I've heard this bedtime story before. So I think I did pull over. I think what I did was I copied over Druid. I think this is OSE Druid. Okay, I'm making note of that. I think this is the source. It must be with this layout up top right here. Druid. This is from OSE for a critique. So this is like the starting point, and maybe I already deleted some stuff from it. I'm not sure. But like I dropped it. I think I did. I think I started to kind of manipulate this some, because in OSE, I believe that it's D6. Yeah, it's great. You know, I sent out an email this evening to let people know that, okay, I'm transitioning to the evening streams. I think they're better. And it just became increasingly difficult for me to do the morning streams. But hopefully people find us. And I also did post the thumbnail earlier, like, so the waiting room was open about 6 hours before the stream started, so that if people, were on YouTube, maybe they saw it. I don't know. And maybe actually getting more active, if I can, on posting videos again instead of just doing live streams would help. We'll see. It might be the case. I think there's a reasonable amount of interest in this type of like OSE game design, I think. So this is OSE for critique. I moved the hit die from D6, making the druid, like, of all the character classes, the two actual just pure magic users are the druid and the witch. And we said that, okay, if we kind of take druid and make that mage or general magic user or whatever, the witch needs to be some type of specialist kind of mage. The witch has got to be very distinct, but we only have really two magic users, and the druid needs to be that. Okay. I think this is, the druid. A druid with at least a 13 int in wisdom gains 5% bonus XP. This is just OSE druid. Charm immunity. Druids of 7th level and above are immune to charms of the Fae. Okay, that makes sense. Let's take that. Yeah. And that we've got different terms or whatever, considering the Fae right here. But like the otherworldly charms of things you might meet on an adventure, okay, you're immune to the charm of that. Hey, and does this also include druids? Bards. Does this also include bards? Bardic magic? It could. Divine symbols, as we were just talking about, it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense that the bard would be singing and having the druids walk after him. So maybe it does not work on the druids. Divine magic. Okay, and again, we're not really making any kind of distinction here between arcane and clerical magic, because it's all just magic in the Celtic world, and they're not even distinguishing so much between magic and their religion and just the way the world is. So there's just all of that here. So holy symbol, a druid must carry a holy symbol such as a sprig of mistletoe, which the character must harvest. Okay. The druids must be faithful to the tenets of their religion. Of course, this is deliberately vague in OSE because, well, first of all, short character blocks, but then also there's no setting, really. Druids who fall from the favors, and I said this is, okay, so I did add some stuff from Rabbithanian here. Druids who fall from the favor of the spirits of rock, root, and stream may incur penalties. But OSE just leaves that vague. Okay, penalties, but what are those penalties? Magical research, I do think we should definitely have. A druid of any level may spend time and money on magical research. This allows them to create new spells or other magical effects associated with the spirits of rock, root, and stream. But this would be no spell scrolls. That's not happening here. Spell casting. So then I said in here, okay, why don't we take XP and the hit dice and Thaco as magic user. And that's the OSE character class magic user, which there is not a whole lot to magic user as far as abilities and things like that. It's basically, their special powers and there is that they get a heck of a lot of magic with a tremendous variety of spells. But I figure, okay, let's import the XP and Thaco as magic user, and then also spells per level as magic user, and then have them also save as magic users. After reaching 11th level, the druid may build a stronghold, but let's not call that stronghold. Like, let's change that over to something terminology. It may establish a sacred grove or stone circle at some wondrous natural site. 1d6 apprentices of level 1 to 3 will arrive to study under the druid. Okay, so this is also where, like, note. Let's see. PH says, my life has been taking care of my kids and working with AI. I can't rest. Every day there's something new. Hey, I hear you, PH. Well, I don't have the kids to take care of, but as far as working with AI, that was also some stuff. I'd be interested to know what you're doing. Of course, I've been doing a lot of the, like image generation videos and things like that a lot last year, but recently I've really gotten involved with AI agents. I mentioned that I was working on a different channel this afternoon, for about 3 hours, and really it had a lot to do with agents. That's just come up so much. AI automation, very different from all of the RPG kind of stuff, but I know trying to keep up with what's going on with AI agent development, stuff like that, it's so much. Not one that I'm live streaming on or anything like that. But there's actually a lot of stuff to be done with that. I think a lot, and now is the year to do it all. So I have also been transitioning my interest in AI over to that sort of automation agent side of things, and there is so much. Note. So I'll also need to note here. I'll also need to include that a druid may not be a druid until a certain level. Now, this implies 4th. Maybe even 4th. Because that's a big thing. Being an apprentice, there's a lot to learn as a druid. So you're still kind of an apprentice druid. And then come to think of it, AD&D has all the druidic ranks, which I like for Rabavania, and I think is probably largely acceptable for a Celtic inspired fantasy, a Celtic kind of fantasy world. And I want to include those. For instance, this is up here. I did incorporate this, that when Gadweir's introduction that I read on stream, this is Gadweir, the Grand Druid of Rabavania. So Grand Druid of Rabavania, that's a title right there. So Grand Druid, there's only one, and he's it. So there's only going to be one Grand Druid. There's like one Grand Druid, and then some number of Arch Druids or whatever. I think that information can go in. And in AD&D, and I didn't get into Comfy. I did not do that. PH says, yeah, basically generating media for business art projects, implementing some courses in the school, and also automation for business. The automation for business is what I've been looking at for about the last 2 weeks, pretty heavily. I never used Comfy UI for the media generation. And probably I should have, but I never really got into that, but I should. But it's the workflows for business automation that I have, other than being sick, for any other spare time that I had, I was really throwing myself into. And there is so much there. I think that could be really big here in 2026, which is why I was looking at it. Some number of Arch Druids, etc. What I was saying was that Advanced Dungeons and Dragons says that has all the stuff about you having to fight other level druids, the dueling or challenging, the challenge of druids. Like, in AD&D, like if all the number of archdruids, which were druids of a certain level, were filled in your game world, you could still accumulate experience as a druid, but you couldn't actually gain the level to obtain that unless there was an opening in the archdruids, right? And one of the ways you could make make an opening was to challenge and fight one of the existing archdruids. And that seemed weird to me. And so I don't know if it's appropriate here, but, or at least in Rabavania, but I think that comes from Caesar. I was listening to some material on the druids as I was writing some lore and stuff, and I want to say that, and I was listening to something about them like fighting or druidic challenges or something like that, and I was like, well, wait a minute, I thought that was the AD&D thing, but I now think that was drawn from some of Caesar's writing on the druids, because Caesar wrote on the Celts and on the druids. And so maybe it's not as weird as, maybe it didn't come out of left field as far as the AD&D implementation. Maybe it came out of Caesar's writings. Certain rank, not Caesar inspired. I'm sure some people will think, no, you've got to go. However, you've got to have that because, like, that's classic Caesar's right. Now, whether or not he was right, I mean, that's another thing, but maybe that comes directly from them. Robert says, I'm still engrossed in my AI graphic text adventure. So much fun, but you need a lot of patience. When I was looking at the automation for business, I was like, what's one of the things you want to do if you're someone like me? It's like, hey, wait a minute, could this be used to run some kind of text-like adventure? And I will say for the first time ever, like, because I will experiment with technology periodically to try to do the kind of things that I want to do. I never was like a computer science major or something like that. So I didn't have that kind of background. So periodically I would come in with technology and see if I could do something that I wanted to do. And for the first time using AI automation tools, I was able to get a text-based adventure up and running on the internet. It was not complete or anything like that, but like how to get it up, running, functional, accessible, be able to send commands back and forth. I did that as just like a kind of test project. Hey, I wonder if I could do that now. And so I spent about 3 or 4 hours or something like that on that test, maybe 3, and it worked. It actually worked. I thought that was really cool. So there'd be a lot that had to be developed in that. And I know that's what you're doing, but I was really excited that using what I had learned about the AI and the AI automation and things like that, that I was actually able to do it for the first time. So then you think now, because there was no point, I always felt there's no point in developing this game if I don't even really know how to deploy it and get it online. I don't know any of that, but well, I figured out how to do it. So who knows? Not like I don't have enough to do. Automations I do with a programmer friend. I don't trust automations made solely with AI, especially when it comes to security. PHR Beck says. All right, so moving on here. That was our interested in Druid's level here. Druid staff. I thought this was an interesting one. Harm invisible monsters. In the hands of a druid, a normal staff can harm creatures that are immune to mundane attacks. Well, I don't know is this a normal staff? Is this a normal staff? Or the specifically made druidic staff? That seems to make more sense to me. And actually getting your staff, thinking about this in terms of Rabavania, other notes. Man, there are lots of notes that are coming out tonight. Well, okay, yes. Darth Bacon says, always double check the AI. But also, I was also learning how to create like the databases for the AI to go and check, like the retrieval augmented generation and like storing text in a vector database that semantically connects information that you want it to reference. And surely this has got to already have been done. But like, have people taken the OSE and different RPG game books and stored that in these kinds of vector semantic databases for the AI to be able to reference? Surely they have, because I was thinking about that too. I was like, oh, or like the things that I write, and that's, I was like, oh, maybe so I could like embed on the Ravenkeep website. Like if you wanted to ask, certain ask it about certain rules or something like that. Hey, I've got this situation. What's the rule? Yeah, you don't want it to hallucinate some kind of answer. You want it to actually refer to the rule books. And it seems like now I would know how to potentially store that information for retrieval by the AI. So I'm sure that somebody else, I mean, there are a lot of geeks out there working on this. So you would think that somebody would have already loaded that in there. I just haven't seen it yet. Let's see. So yeah, what's the druid's? Yeah, which is actually what I was thinking of right here. Let me stay on this topic a moment. But how do you make one? This just says in a normal staff. But we would need to know how to make one of those. At least in Rabavania, getting your staff, or actually you're awarded your staff. When you become a druid, all the druids have one, and they're all unique, and they hand it to you in order to say that you are actually a druid. So this could be something given to you at a certain level. So maybe that's fourth level, when you actually become a real druid. So yeah, we would need, maybe that's done with some type of spell or some type of enchant item. And it should be a big deal, I think, if you lose it. I mean, that's also kind of like the Gandalf thing, right? It's a kind of a big deal to have your staff broken, like when he breaks Saruman's staff. So insofar in the world that I was working on, there's the drawing from Gandalf and the Wizards of the Lord of the Rings. Their staff, you don't just, oh, I lost my staff, or whatever. That's kind of a big deal. So maybe it should be a big deal here. And I like the idea of all of the druids having unique staves, and so having the special ability that it would harm creatures that are immune to mundane attacks seems to work. And then like this one right here, I mean, that is also very Gandalf, right? Light once per day, the druid may cause their staff to radiate light in a 30-foot radius for 1 turn per level. Druids can be very learned in languages and scripts. Meant to be experts in ancient or foreign languages. I don't know what I was going for there. But do not write down any. So I had already extracted like the shape-shifting stuff has been taken out of this. So this was apparently what was left from the OSE kind of druid as I copied it over and then started extracting things from it. So you can tell that like shape-shifting is gone. Can a druid consecrate a normal staff? Does it receive one, or does he have to make it? Yeah, I think we need to establish that ritual, and I think it should be something that it might take more than one druid to do. Like, how do you? It needs to be cut from a certain type of tree, and I think I trees being special, different kinds of trees. Staves cut from different types of trees. should have different effects. Excuse me, still getting over the last of the congestion. Yeah, make sure that audio turned back on. Looks like it did. The staves could all be cut from a sacred tree or bush. And I think they should. See, I think you get, of course, the more OSE style here is to, like, at least in the character class description, not get real deep into that. Not that we exactly have to follow that, but if you cut to a certain ceremony about that, then you could get a lot more complicated with the effects of different staves from different, like, heartwoods and things like that. But yeah, so I was going here that I guess what the last thing I was trying to think about or whatever had been hacked over from OSE Druid was making note that they don't write down any of their information. And they take great pride that their stories, magic, whatever religion is passed down exclusively through secretive oral tradition. Here, and then especially later, like, they don't have a problem with reading other people's stuff. In fact, they're like, hey, I should learn how to read. That way I can read other people's secrets. And in fact, I was thinking about Gadweir specifically saying that he's can read all kinds of languages, and he needs to say something about, like, that it's extremely important to learn how to read, because a lot of other people just leave the contents of their mind laying unguarded on these leaves, the leaves, this parchment here. It's like a mind unguarded, and you can just pick it up if you understand the language and, like, get into somebody's mind. And the druids are like, no. We keep all of this locked up in our heads. But it's not a problem to learn to read for other people's stuff, but you don't write stuff down, so you're not making. And so that matters insofar as that this is a bit more based on magic user than druid. I mean, a big part of being a magic user is being able to create, like, spell scrolls, which is not something that you should be able to do here. Okay, so that's about as far as I got. Loadout options right here. Druid spells. We're going to have to look at Druid spell list. And I do want to be sure that we've got Spirit Wall. And I was thinking about Merlin from Bernard Cornwell's Warlord trilogy. And one of the things that I really liked about, I liked a lot of things about that. I like listening to or reading different versions of King Arthur. And Bernard Cornwell did the Warlord trilogy about King Arthur, and I really like the way that Merlin is portrayed in that. And one of the things that, and because he is druidic, he's not at all a Christianized guy. In fact, he has really a dim view of Christianity. So he's very much the pagan kind of weirdo, which kind of inspires Gadweir in the main storyline, that everybody's not real sure whether he's all there or not. If he actually has some type of great insight into the spirit world or whatever, or is he just kind of crazy? You get that with the Merlin and the Warlord trilogy. But one of the things that they do, the druids will set up these spirit walls that you can't cross, otherwise terrible things are going to happen to you. And whether or not in that story they're actually magical or not goes without being said, because people think they are. So when the enemy is up on the hill and this part of the hill is being defended by this spirit wall that this druid has erected with, like, skulls and whatever else with the enemy druid has done, like, nobody's climbing that side of the hill and crossing that thing. And so you have to get your druid, if you want to do that, to climb that hill. And I think Merlin does that. Like, okay, we're trying to assault this, but it's defended by the enemy druid, put up this spirit fence. Will you go over there and take care of that? And Merlin starts, like, some kind of crazy dance and chanting or whatever to be able to go through the spirit wall and knock it down to let Arthur's warriors pass. That sounds really cool. And I think there is Celtic stories that include things like that, which surprises me that we don't see that in OSE or other places. So we're going to have to create a spell for that, I think. I want to be sure that that's present. So like this spirit wall, new spell, druid spells. Spirit wall. Okay. We're not done with even just looking at druid yet, because I do want to take a look at things to do with where had I written this down? The mage from Carcass Crawler. Oh, up here, probably. Because I want to look at some of its abilities and what needs to be brought over. We got to look at spell lists for both of these things. But then even if there's not much to be brought over from mage in this storyline, because this needs to be a much more magical kind of druid than the one that we had built for the one where they're in like the 12th century world, which is a much more low magic world. This one can be a higher magic world, so we can actually have the druids with more magic. And I realized that it's potentially possible that the mage from the Carcass Crawler might need to become what the later period druid is. I think maybe that's where we should pick up next stream, because we could go into that, but I'm also getting a little bit tired, and we're almost coming up on 2 hours here. So, all right, so we will continue then with druid from there. There's a lot of work to do. I will work on this off of stream, and then also try to come up with, okay, what do good spell lists work seem like for this? So I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope you had a good time hanging out with me. I really did. I had a really chill time, and I've enjoyed hanging here. So I'm going to get out of here. So I will see you again Wednesday night. What is today? I don't even know, because I've been sick. This is Sunday night. This is Sunday. So probably the next time I stream will be Wednesday night. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. So good to see everybody. I'm glad I'm back in action. Go forth, have a wonderful evening, and then a wonderfully creative day tomorrow. Good night, everybody.